Welcome back, everybody, to the Boys in Motion podcast, where endurance meets great vibes and occasionally questionable life choices. My name's Tyler.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Brian. And today we're diving into something that every runner, cyclist, and triathlete faces: figuring out when to start a training plan and how the heck to pick the right one for you.
This is one of those topics that mostly feels basic, but it's actually game changing. The right plan could be the difference between showing up on race day ready to crush it or crash and burn, baby.
And it's not about just picking the first 12-week plan that you find off of Google. Your goals, your schedule, and your recovery needs, it all matters when it comes to training plans.
When I first did my first half marathon ever, I followed a plan religiously without accounting for what level of fitness I was at and what kind of base mileage I already had built into the legs. And oh my gosh, I did not realize that it didn't have a single down week. It didn't have any sort of non-competitive running spirit to it. So it was just not built for me. And sometimes I still have IT band problems from that first block. So the stuff can linger. So it's really important you get it right.
Hate to hear it, but Tyler and I, we have been following our training plans religiously. And we are in race week. I will be running the Toronto Marathon along with John. So we'll be towing the line together. And Tyler will be going for that speedy net downhill half marathon. So that's happening this Sunday, May 4th. So it should be a nice, speedy race. The body's feeling good. How are you feeling, Tyler, for the race?
I'm fired up. The jitters are already starting, and I'm excited to toe that line. Finally, a net downhill half marathon that I could actually try to race out there, so it'll be fun. The past few have been those hilly Kingston and Ottawa halves, so just happy to be out on a nice pancake flat and see how it goes. Hopefully we have some good weather too.
Yeah, I'm excited to see you guys crush it. It's a big weekend for the BIM squad. There's probably some others that are participating in the race as well. So good luck to anybody who's running Toronto Marathon or half this weekend. But, well, that's exciting. I'm hyped up for something that, in my opinion, is going to just be one of the best weekends of the year, which is the BIM ride. We're pretty much a month out. So this time next month, you're going to have all your outfits selected. Your bike's going to be nice and tuned up, and you might even be having a sleepover at my house. Shout out to you, Tyler. You'll be cuddling. And we're going to be, crushing the BIM ride with a group of about 25 riders between those two packs. Very hyped for that. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, you're right. That actually might be one of the top weekends of the summer. I'm really excited for that too. I know we're gonna have some speedy boys in the pain cave, and also the chat pack is gonna be a party town. So I'm really excited.
For sure. And I mean, I'm getting married this year, and this is still making the kind of top 3 weekends of the year. So that means something, that's for sure.
Yeah, and what I'm really excited about this BIM ride is it's always a great weekend. This will be the 3rd edition of the BIM ride, but the big change, other than having 2 BIM packs, is our crispy BIM cycling jerseys that I think are going to look so good just ripping around that Niagara Circle loop.
Yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on them and kind of the unboxing the night before the big ride or even the morning of for the people that are coming out from out of town. It's just going to be so nice seeing the squad pull up all with the same jerseys. That does remind me, I think we got to call some of those coffee houses and some of the food places that we're hitting on our journey just to make sure they can accommodate such a big BIM group.
And such a speedy group. The train is coming.
Yeah, we're going to be taking over some restaurants as we come in 20 hungry cyclists deep. Just give us all of your carbs, all of your water, all of your caffeine right now.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Okay, so that kind of goes for what we've got in the next month on the BIM docket. Now, Tyler, you've pulled together, I think, a perfect episode for this time of year because the summer season is pretty much here, or let's call it right around the corner. And as the seasons change, you should probably have your eyes on what you're doing this fall. And now is the time to be picking that right training plan for you. So we're going to dive into kind of training plans 101s, where to start, what to look for, and yeah, let's dive into things. So what do you have for us, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this here because actually I need a little bit of help with picking a training plan. So I'd like to see what we could consider here, how to choose the right plan, what to do in between races, and when should you start a training plan. So I think those are some big questions to ask for people who are not sure about whether to jump into one yet or get ready for a training plan. So a lot of good stuff that we could chat about today. And I just need a little bit of guidance, let's just say, as you guys may know.
Fair enough. And you're not the only one. I've been getting approached more and more often recently about like what training plan is right for me, like what kind of resources are out there to help me make this decision. And then that's mainly runners who are asking me that. But then you add on multi-sport athletes who need to juggle a few sports, whether it's cycling and running or the trifecta. It can become a lot. So I think the number one rule for me is to think about the end goal. So start with the end of mind and have something that you're targeting for that training plan. It doesn't always need to be a race, but typically it will be a race. For example, in the winter, this winter that just passed, I didn't necessarily have a race for cycling that I was training towards, but I had a clear goal that I was training towards. So I think that's kind of the key thing is find a goal, find a date, and work backwards from there.
Yeah, I think that's key. Is as soon as you get that date on the calendar, it's super easy to start having some structure and kind of a reason why you're slotting in specific workouts and not just zone 2, I'm going out for casual runs. Because I know personally, having specific VO2 max threshold workouts in the calendar, if I don't have a goal, is not going to happen. I need that goal in sight. I need to know why I'm putting my body through this pain.
Yeah, because those VO2 max workouts definitely pack a punch, and you don't want to do them for no reason. And also, you want to increase your fitness regards to the race you're going to be doing. So really tailoring that training plan is super important.
Yeah. So once you've got that race in mind and you've kind of worked backwards to figure out like how long roughly you have, the next thing that I think you need to take into account is where your base fitness is today. So if you're starting from scratch completely, you probably need to give yourself extra weeks just to build a little base before diving into something with like strict mileage. And on the other side of things, if you've already got a great base of fitness, you've done a ton of zone 2 work, you've previously done training blocks, well, all of that information should kind of be used to help you inform how hard, how much you can go in this training block.
Yeah, that's a good point. I also like using, a past training block with the same race as like a base reference to like knowing exactly what levels you were at, let's say exactly 12 months ago, maybe even the same race, and then going from there, kind of trying to replicate those workouts and those times early on in the training plan, and then obviously going above and beyond and trying to beat those times on your key workouts, I think is another key important factor to choosing your current, like I guess looking at your current fitness level.
On that point, and kind of regardless of the sport, for me it's pretty simple with just marathon training, learn, adapt, rinse and repeat. What I generally do is I will take kind of my PRs from the previous season and where I was at, and then roll those into my next block as my marathon pace workouts, my half marathon pace workouts, and my 5K workouts. But if you're not necessarily building on a block in that way, using some tools like I know Koros has a fitness test that you can do where it will kind of estimate where your different paces are at, doing something like that. Or I recently I put up a quick tip on how to figure out your 5K time. So doing small tests like that going into the block can be a good benchmark to kind of find out your zones of what paces you should be hitting. And that regardless, running, swimming, biking, triathlon, it all works.
Yeah, for sure. So I last touched on like the difference between going into a block if you were fit, you have all that information. On the other side of the coin, if you don't have that and you need to build that base, I think just a few like again, this is very general, but if you're a new runner, a new cyclist, or a new triathlete, you should budget about an extra 6 to 8 weeks just to build a base before you dig into your first like actual training plan. Now, a typical marathon plan, or even like a lot of our plans, whether you're aiming at an Ironman marathon or even a 5K, they typically are over 10 weeks, sometimes up to 20 weeks. But a lot of them will kind of fall in that like 16 to 20 week plan. So that kind of gives you a frame of like how far ahead you need to plan for these plans. If you're a new runner, it's going to take half a year to get there if you structure this properly. If you are not a new runner, 20 weeks is still over 4 months. It's 5 months of time. So you do need to be planning ahead. It's not as easy as just throwing a race in the calendar and saying, this is my A race. If you're taking it seriously and you really have this A race, you need to be planning far out. So a question for you guys, how would you choose the right plan? So this kind of breaks down in the idea of one, there's experience levels. Two, you have to tailor it to some sort of distance or discipline. And then Tyler, I know you have some great things to consider as well, which are definitely important for every athlete.
That is true. Yeah. I think, having a training plan, you could shoot for the stars, but having a training plan that is realistic to your expectations and your lifestyle, I think is step one. You could have anything on paper and then kind of like not hit, if you don't hit any of them, it's useless. Like you're training, what are you training towards, right? So you kind of go, you could go for an advanced training plan, but only do a quarter of the workouts and it doesn't really do anything for you. You could go down to, let's say, an intermediate or a beginner training plan, go around your lifestyle, your work, your family schedule, and hit those workouts. You feel more confident, you get more of a boost, and then you could actually crush those workouts and not lie to yourself, knowing what paces you're going to hit and build off of that block into the next one. So I think choosing the right intensity and volume is very important.
Yeah, for sure. Those are the two main levers, is that intensity and volume. And it's always just that balancing game between the two, and like which dial am I just pushing up because the other one kind of has to give at the same time. So I think it really also depends on the specific race you're training for, on which one you want to be playing with.
Yeah. So I think some key questions that people need to ask themselves then are like, how much time per week do you realistically want to be dedicating to training? Because that'll inform that volume piece. And then in terms of intensity, you need to ask yourself, one, like, what is your current level of fitness? How much intensity can you actually follow through with? And then two, do you have any injuries that you're managing? Because you don't want to bite off something that's too intense if you're also managing your body a lot. But for any plan, some other things to look out for is like structure of that plan. Like, are you bending that structure around, let's say you're going on vacation 1 week, can you also match that to the periodization? So like a recovery week, the week that you're going on vacation, those sorts of things are when you get really into the nitty gritty and the planning of that plan are some important things, because you need to fit it to your lifestyle. And that not every week is going to be automatic where you're just like working, managing family and sleeping. There's some weeks that are a little more chaotic. So match your plan to that as well.
Yeah, looking ahead is a big thing with it all as well. Like, you could, like you said, go on vacation or you have a work trip in a month or so. Try to plan around that. Book your big long bike rides or runs early on in the week. Let's say you're gone from a Thursday to a Sunday. You try to get everything out of the way so you can still enjoy that family or work time, but also not sacrifice a full week of training, and then maybe leads on to, the week after. I'm guilty of that. The week after, playing catch up, and then just a snowball effect of playing catch up week after week, and then you can never get back to where you used to be.
Yeah, I think it's important once you get that race on the calendar, you sit everyone down, the family down, and you have a big business meeting. You get the calendar out. I think doing this in a nice calendar that it's visible for everyone, that you put, here's my race, and you look at all your other obligations, whether that's family, friends, work, whatever, vacation, and you try to work your way around it. So let's say maybe I want to commit to a 16-week training block, but I have a 1-week vacation, I have a wedding weekend. So maybe I actually want to try to extend to an 18-week and kind of work some of those, a down week with the vacation, and just kind of shuffle things around. So that's thinking about that beforehand will set you up for success.
It's funny you say that, because I'm coming towards probably 12, 13 weeks until my big A race, and I just printed off the schedule to give to the family. Here you go, everybody. This is what we're following, and this is what we have to get through. So yeah, great point.
I love it. Yeah, this is key advice, is like keep the people around you informed and be flexible as well. Like I've been asked like, "Oh, Brian, will you do an Ironman?" And I just know how much training, I see how much you do, Tyler. And to me, it's like there's this part of building a training plan where you're committing so much time to that, where it's stripping pieces of your life away. Like you're secluding yourself in your training sometimes with how much we actually end up doing. And that's some of the hesitation. So being realistic with how much time you actually can commit and want to commit is key. And also keeping, your loved ones informed about that, being flexible to a certain extent. You still need to achieve those goals if that's really what you want to set out to do. So that's going to take time, but don't be afraid. Like every training plan can have some flexibility, and you can still hit your goals with that.
Well said. That's really well said. Well, I don't know about that though, Brian. You're doing almost double my mileage, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, but again, this is because I'm communicating with the people around me. They understand the commitments. And bonus tip, if you get your loved ones into endurance sports and put them on a training plan, you can match up some of your days together so that you're spending time while also getting the benefits of all that activity. So I think that's a major key, is just sign up those to some races together, and who knows, they might just get bit by the bug like the rascal.
That's actually a glitch.
I think one important thing I think that comes out of this is if you're wanting to get started and you don't have much of a base, and I think the allure of things like Ironman, the marathon, like these long endurance events are super popular. Everyone wants to do them, but understand that, yeah, they take a lot of training. They take many hours. So maybe as you're first into endurance sports, maybe it's you're biting off a bit more than you can chew. So just something to take into consideration.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think like you don't start with the big event and the 20 week block. You start with that base building block, and you can have a little goal like a BIM 5K type of event, or even like a BIM ride type of event where you're training towards something that's a little bit smaller. And you can put in as much time or as little time as long as you're realistic about that. Because even a 5K, there's people that are running over 100K a week just trying to get their 5Ks real speedy and quick. So it doesn't really matter the event you're doing, but the longer the event, generally the more time it's going to take, because you just need to have so much of an aerobic base and put so much time in at that like low intensity.
Yeah, at that point it's quality.
What do you mean at that point it's quality?
Like at that point you just get like it's once you, like you were saying, if you get 100 kilometers in a week but you're still training for a 5K, it's like quality of your running miles equals a better at a 5K. Like I know some people say, you look at the quantity of miles, but I think if you get that quality piece in, doesn't matter what, like you could be training 100 miles a week, but go for a fast 5 or 10K. You could be training someone like me 30 kilometers a week, but training for that bigger race. It just depends on the quality of miles I think you put in.
I see what you mean. Yeah, and you're definitely right. Like I look at somebody like Logan's training plan. Like pretty much every other time he's going out the door, it's like quality miles where he's doing a workout or like a long run at pace. It's really impressive that he can do that, but that's only because he's built up block by block by block with this like heavy intensity and high mileage. But he's like I looked at his Strava. He's never run a marathon, so he's only focused on shorter events. But he's wicked fast and doing as much volume as Andrew.
I think that's important to keep in mind. Yeah, he has a ton of volume, but he's training for shorter events. So that's like I know a lot of people ask me of like, oh, I want to go with a run with you, but you're way quicker than me. But so much of my running is done at a relatively slow pace. I think my recovery runs are often a lot slower than some recovery runs I do see on Strava of people that are slower than me. So I'm
chiming in here that might be a shot at me because some of my recoveries are like as fast as Andrew's.
I think it's a shot at a lot of people getting into running because you just think that you should be working, which should not be the case. So there's a big variety in that, especially if you're going for those longer endurance events.
Now, was this a hot take? Was this a hot take previously? Because I remember talking about this, which is like if your recovery runs, if you're not wanting to go slow in your recovery runs, it's because your hard workouts aren't hard enough. Maybe that's just like fresh off the press. But
Frig, that's nice.
Yeah.
That is 100% I agree with. It's my recovery runs are really, really slow, but when it's time to do a VO2 max, I'm sending it.
That is shout out to Gizzard the Lizard though. She helps you with your recovery miles, that's for sure.
I thought you were gonna say VO2 max workouts, and that is also true because boy can she kick.
That's it. Okay, so I have another point that I think is important to touch on, which is like how you build that plan. So there's do it yourself versus coaching. And the realm of do it yourself has exploded recently, especially with like generative AI tools and then other apps that are essentially like Gen AI wrappers that can help build your plans based off, you go and you do a workout like a Koros test, and then you just put in your workout date and it'll spit out you put in your race date and it'll spit out a customized plan for you. There's other things that you can do, like actually like referencing a book or the literature to find a plan, and then you sort of customize it to you. Or you can go the coaching route where you actually have a person who's supporting you with building out that plan so that it's flexible to you. What are your guys' thoughts on kind of the whole market of do it yourself versus coaching?
I'm a big DIY guy. I've been doing it for a couple of years. I'm starting to dabble a little bit in some coaching, but I got dropped by my coach, but I might be back, so we'll see. But I've always been a DIY kind of training, reading books. I haven't used the AI yet. I find that's, I don't know, for me, it's just like too easy. Just spit out a plan. Like I feel like I want to work a little bit for my plan. I kind of it's funny how Runnerman Andy at the beginning of the episode says, don't go on Google and click the first plan. That's exactly what this is. So, but I like putting different plans together, meshing some like build blocks of some plans, and then like putting some base blocks of some plans, and then entering in some build blocks of others. So kind of mixing and matching my own plans together is really, I find that actually fun. So I think, DIY route is just like part of the fun for me. I think coaching maybe might take some of that out of the equation.
Yeah, I think the coaching side, if you're really looking for like an accountability partner and someone to keep on top of you, is good. Better option and free option is join Boys in Motion on Strava. Great accountability partners all around there.
A couple chirps too.
Oh, lots of chirps.
And the investigators.
I'll keep you accountable. You don't want to get chirped.
Investigators, exactly. Yeah. That's
but I feel like for most of us at the level we're at, where like there's so much juice left to squeeze from the orange, just using plans and figuring it out and kind of making mistakes and learning from that is a great way to go. I've been using Fitsinger plans. I love them, but then I'll kind of like read books about like training books. The most recent one was by The Science of Running by Steve Magnus, where I kind of read that book, took a few workouts and kind of like key things to build into fits, and I've been incorporating it and I've been enjoying that. So just take a plan at the beginning, don't overthink it too much, and don't make that first one too hard, and then just make mistakes and adapt it as you go.
Yeah, very well said from the training god himself, I think. At first, I thought too, I did my first marathon block with the fits in your plan, one of the like basic ones. And I thought, after my first marathon, I have to change training plans. Like it was kind of like you could call it a misconception that like you have to try something new. You don't really have to. You could do the same one and just improve on it, do more miles, do a more advanced version of it. Like you're saying, Andrew, you've been doing those fits plans for a while now. You're just trying to optimize it and improve on what is already given to you. So I think, don't overcomplicate it and just improve on what you already have in your base. And I think you could go far with that.
Yeah. So I agree. I think doing it yourself is a great way to start. Find something that's easy enough. Now, there's this adaptability piece as well. So I know the site that I use allows you to pick like you pick your race day, and then you can pick one out of like 50 running plans, and they're strictly running plans. So I kind of use that as the starting place. It's called Calendar Hack. It's an app for running that allows you to pick this. You can sort of like move individual workouts here and there in the calendar, or you can move the whole like column of days to a different day, which is really beneficial for like planning your life around your training. And then the last thing is you can export that and then import that into any calendar, which is super helpful. But what I've been doing is I've been sort of building it there. And because I want to blend that running with cycling, I've been using ChatGPT to actually like do some blending of a running plan with cycling volume. And it's been amazing. Going into the BIM 5K, I really wanted to get a lot of speed work in. So I kind of explained to chat exactly where I was. I said I have like 4 weeks between then and now, and I still want to hit X amount of kilometers on the bike. This is how much I want to dedicate. And this day I need off because I'm usually commuting to and from the office on that day and don't have time to put in as much training. And with all of those kind of guides, prompts to ChatGPT, it spit me out a nice table, and I went away with that. So it was a really good experience. I encourage people to try it, but you kind of need to know and understand how much volume you're comfortable with doing today, because with any tool, it's going to recommend you only the information that it knows about you. So if you don't have the base mileage, if you are managing an injury, it could lead you astray.
That's nice. Now that you say that, I might have to ask for ChatGPT's assistance on some of my optimization of my calendar. I have a training calendar, but I kind of just try to use it from my last season's Ironman block and kind of play around with that. But yeah, I might have to optimize it a little bit with some robotic friends.
Yeah, for sure. So we've touched a lot about training plans, but the last thing I want to do is talk about like the mental and motivational benefits that a training plan offers, because it's not just about like structured training allows you to execute well. I think there's a lot more that goes around. And Andrew, I want to start with you. You shared this insight some time ago, which is like the physical training plan. What are the benefits of like actually printing it out?
Yeah, digital tools are great, but for me, having the physical calendar so that every time I come in from a workout, especially those big, scary workouts, the satisfaction of crossing off that workout and then coming in the door every day, seeing that row of X's and seeing all of the workouts, and then being able to, at the end, kind of like during that race week, kind of reflect on the workouts I did and see all of those X's that led up to this one event is just a huge boost and kind of motivates you of like, wow, I've put a lot of work into this. You know, regardless of if you have a great day, an okay day, you know that you put in a big work for like the bigger picture of improving your fitness.
Big agree. I just looked in my cupboard here. I have my last year's plan printed out on a piece of paper too. So I'm a big advocate for that as well. I think a big thing too is kind of like what you mentioned, Andrew. Like I like tracking what was prescribed versus what you actually did, because life does get in the way and sometimes you do have to move things on the fly, and just seeing that jogging a round of workouts but still like executing them was another like very satisfying thing for me.
Yeah, I think having a plan and having that visualized is a huge benefit. There's nothing worse than those times where, and sometimes it's good. I shouldn't say there's nothing worse, but like when you're actively chasing an A goal and you don't have a plan and you're sort of like making up workouts on the fly is not a good way to go about training, because you're not like executing on a plan. So you don't have the clarity of like what's coming next, what you're actually trying to accomplish. And then you don't have something to stick to and be disciplined. You can sort of be like too flexible with like, oh, I might go out for a run. I don't know if it's going to be 6K or 30K. You just, when it's that flexible, I think you're leaving too much on the table.
I feel like this is what I experimented with all winter. Without a marathon to train for, I actually found myself kind of exactly in that spot where like I didn't really have anything on paper, because actually I just started in April following more of a structured plan. And for those 4 months, I've literally been like fly by the seat of my pants, just like going out for runs whenever I wanted to, biking whenever I wanted to, and actually not swimming all winter. So it was kind of like just, piggybacking off of some people's workouts. Big shout out to John. He actually got me out there running quite a bit. But yeah, it was just super random, not satisfying to complete those workouts because I had nothing to work to, let's say. It was kind of like that, like go as you please and just run if you want, don't run if you don't want. So it's definitely an experience.
So I have a question for you, Tyler. Are you officially on the training plan now, or are you still just willy-nilly?
I must say I am now on a training plan. I did start low key. I'm calling it low key in April, 16 week out from Ironman Ottawa. So now we're about 12 weeks out, and I'm still on the fence. Well, I guess Mike, my big shout out to Mike O. He's on the fence with taking me back. He has been in discussions with taking me back on that weekly training plan. So I have to prove it to him at the end of this month. He'll see if he's going to start scheduling me back for some workouts. And I think it's been going well so far, so we'll see.
Yeah, I hope the good news continues, because I've been investigating the Strava graph, and the volume is increasing, and even better, it's pretty steady, which is what I think he needs to be looking for, is making sure that you're consistent with your workouts, because that's the plan in execution, is the consistency. Another great idea, and this is especially key for people who are just doing their first training plan, but it's also something that anybody can employ, which is treat days. So in some training plans that I've designed, I've had like major milestones in that training plan. For example, a tune-up race or your first half marathon of the training block, those sorts of things, and then having some micro treats. For example, it could be like a new pair of shoes. You'll go and get them as long as you do X workout at X pace. And so some of those motivators throughout the plan can really sort of break up the length of like a 20-week plan by having those micro goals and those micro treats. So you're not only always looking at like the end goal, but you can have those little rewards throughout the plan. So take that one if you want.
I might just have to get another pair of shoes. I actually lost a pair of my shoes last week. I'm pissed.
What?
I'm
Which
pissed.
shoes?
My friggin' Saucony Convera Pros.
Wait, what? How?
I lost them. They were friggin' gone. I went my first workout at the gym in like 4 months. Leave them at the gym. I said poubelle. I left them at the gym.
They were just too speedy. They ran off themselves. You didn't even need to be in them. They were running away.
Yep, they friggin' ran away. I called. They're like, I don't know. You'll have to come check. And I haven't checked yet. So we'll see.
Well, I hope you can find them. That's a big investment to lose right there.
Yeah, those are illegal. Those are actually illegal from Ironman. Stacked too high, so they're actually real nice. And they were friggin' expensive. So
yeah, that's unfortunate. Hopefully they make their way back to you, because that That's a big loss. I know how excited you were when you scooped those, and I feel like you haven't gotten a crazy amount of mileage on them yet. You
Yeah,
still
I
got some
think they're
life.
like, yeah, I think they're like 200K. So there's still babies on them, but they looked really in rough shape because they're black and I have salt stains on them. So maybe people are like, oh, these are old, stinky pair of shoes. I don't want them. So
And
Little
wait,
do they know.
what gym is this? I'm interested.
for a big shout out to Fit for Less. So we'll see if the low membership costs help me with retrieving my shoes.
So were you like lifting weights there, or were you on the treadmill? I'm confused. What were you doing in a gym as an endurance athlete?
Oh frig, I did a bit of both. Gotta get a big full body circuit going, and then I hit the treadmill. I did a little bit of speed work on the treadmill, just because I had time to waste. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna hit the chest. My body was sore for 3 days, and then hit the treadmill, and there goes my shoes.
That's the price you got to pay for getting on a treadmill. Is all I gotta say.
Yeah, the shoes, poubelle. They touch a treadmill, poubelle. So I have a question for you guys. When is the last time you had like a freestyling week when you weren't actually in a structured plan, or let's say also in like the recovery weeks after a race? Is this like, has it been years, Andrew, since you haven't been on a plan?
I mean, I have many weeks between blocks that I'm not on a plan, that I'm just running. And I
Yeah,
think
you're
for me
ultra.
that's like super important. Exactly. But the only reason I was able to do that is because I wasn't on a plan. I was like, oh, my Monday's available, might as well run 100K. The Sunday before that is open, might as well run 60K. I'm a big fan of not jumping right back into a plan, having some time to free ball, do as the body pleases, maybe not do as many structured workouts, but maybe just doing some fun ridiculous things like ultras, maybe chasing down some segments, some like easier FKTs. I know I have a couple in mind that I'd like to do. So that's I think what I have planned for my next. I'm not training for something.
Craig, you stay out of Font Hill. I don't want you stealing any KOMs around here. They're tough enough to get myself.
Well, he's the king of Welland, so he could do
That
what
is
he wants.
true. And I am thinking of expanding my kingdom. And you know what's beside Welland? Well, let me tell you.
Oh, I'm in danger. That's a spooky thought. Unless you're going the other way and hitting Niagara Falls and scooping up something that Tyler has.
The slug is on its way.
The issue is that in Niagara Falls, I think that's a bit more of where I've seen Logan and Carly train there, so that's a little bit of a spookier territory. So I don't wanna step on those toes because my shoes aren't big enough to step on those toes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, that's super. I think we need to forego the hot take of the week because I feel like I did it myself
Agree.
without
You
like
did do
even
a nice
knowing
one.
that I had a hot take of the week in the sketch.
Hey, the impromptu hot take of the week is real nice. And it was a big agree, so I like that. That's a good one.
All right, Tyler, I think maybe on that note, I think you
Yeah.
should wrap us up here.
Well, on that note, that's a wrap on Training Plans 101. Hopefully, we helped you out figuring out what you're doing for your next training plan, whether you're chasing a nice PB or just trying to make a start line healthy. The right plan can make the difference.
Oh, sorry, I'm unmuted. I just can't take it seriously. For those who are just on audio, Tyler is wearing sunglasses, but they're like a little bit askew, and it's just a nutty look.
This is just a reminder that if you're just listening, maybe you should start tuning in because Tyler gives us some interesting looks and they're worth it. They're worth tuning in, looking at that video, pure entertainment. But yeah, if this episode helped you out, share it with your training buddy, post it to your Strava story, post it on our Strava group, and send it to that one friend who just keeps winging their workouts and maybe needs a little bit more structure in their life.
Shout out to McDuff on that one. But that being said, I think he's a little too fast to be saying, he's just winging his workouts. When you can't catch him, you can't comment. But don't forget, follow us on Instagram, subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and join the Boys in Motion Strava Club to keep the good vibes rolling.
And just the weekly disclaimer, we're not doctors, not physios, certainly not certified coaches, so take everything with a grain of salt. Check with your healthcare professional before making any big training plans. Training plan changes.
So remember, stick to the plan, but don't be afraid to adjust it. It's your journey and your pace. Just keep moving and grooving.